What are 3 myths about modern dating? Okay, number 1, that it's impossible. All right, I think that is a big myth that needs to be stamped on in the community. The community. It's kind of ridiculously aggrandized thing to say, isn't it? I think a lot of guys believe now that it's absolutely impossible, and that's absolute nonsense. Now, the biggest culprits here, of course, are the black pill people, the doomer people, who believe that the only thing that matters as far as male to female dating is concerned is the man's looks, and if he doesn't have the looks, he's not going to get any play, and blah blah blah. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. You only have to walk out of the house, gentlemen, to see that that's not true. Okay, it's the most easily debunkable internet meme that you can imagine. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so but those are the worst culprits. But then there are plenty of other people who are more regular, reasonable people who also think, well, it's just impossible. It's really tough unless you're rich, unless you're this, unless you're that, and it's all kind of there's so many kind of weird like misunderstandings about this stuff. There's so many sort of stupid things that get said online and then repeated. I mean, it's like, do you have to be rich? Well, I mean, obviously it helps to have some form of financial stability, okay? And it helps certainly maybe to be able to go to some cool places. I'm not talking about taking her to the Ritz or anything, but you know, maybe you want to go somewhere nice, have a couple of nice drinks, or even a nice coffee or whatever. I mean, yeah, of course, a small amount of money, you know, some form of financial stability, of course, is helpful. Do you have to own a Bugatti? Absolutely not. It's just complete nonsense. It's complete BS. So don't fall into that way of thinking. You know, oh, I've got to be ripped. I've got to be completely shredded. Otherwise, I'm not going to get any play. Again, obviously be in shape. Obviously work on yourself. Obviously that helps. But to say that any of these individual things on their own are gonna be the thing that's gonna get you to the goal, if you like, is just nonsense. But equally, to say that dating is impossible is nonsense too, because you actually don't need these things. There are plenty of guys who aren't in particularly great shape, and they've got very nice girlfriends. They've got beautiful girlfriends. There are plenty of guys who don't have, you know, an expensive sports car. They're not particularly rich. They've got a beautiful wife. They've got a beautiful girlfriend. Okay, so that's number 1. Thinking that it's impossible. What is number 2? Second myth about dating. That women have it easy? That's controversial, isn't it? I'm going to get a load of hate for that. Controversial, but it's a myth to say that women have it completely easy. They certainly have aspects of it is going to be easier for a woman who is of a certain age and she's attractive. That's undeniable. I mean, well, it's undeniable that a hot girl who's like 24, 25, whatever, she's going to be getting hit up by guys a lot, okay? Whether that's on social media, whether it's in real life, or a combination thereof on the dating apps. You know, she's not going to have a shortage of offers. That is true. However, what's the quality of those offers? All right? And again, I mean, we deal with, in the dating coaching world, you know, we deal with so many chumps. And I say that with the greatest love and respect, but we deal with a lot of guys who are a bit inept at this stuff, let's say. But obviously, as I was, I mean, we're not taught this stuff in school, and that's why they come for help. But taking that as an indication and looking at the sort of DMs that girls get and the kind of approaches that girls get, they're getting a lot of, they might be getting some good guys coming through, but they're also getting a lot of substandard kind of approaches and stuff, and that's why, you know, a girl will open up her DMs or she'll open up her dating app and there's like, you know, 500 whatever messages, and I know, boo-hoo, get out the tiny violin, but a lot of it is just nonsense. A lot of it are guys that she just wouldn't want to interact with anyway. So you can't say, oh, you're so lucky because you've had all of these approaches, because actually a lot of them are just irrelevant to her anyway. Now you can argue the toss about whether that should be the case or not, but you know, she's attracted to what she's attracted to, right? So that's the first thing. But more important than that is that women have this very short shelf life is the wrong way to say it, really. They have this very short window in which they can meet, if this is what they want to do, in which they can meet that guy who's maybe going to be their husband, maybe the father of their kids, whatever, and to meet that right guy, okay? There's a pretty short sort of shelf life. Guys and this gets said all the time, have a somewhat longer run rate. You know, you can still be a father as you go into, I mean, Boris Johnson, I think, is still knocking out kids. He's in his 50s. Mick Jagger, famously 70, whatever. So guys do have this longer run rate, or this longer run, if you like, whereas women, in order to capitalize meaningfully on the dating marketplace, they've got this quite short period of time. So they have to be somewhat ruthless about it. You know, they have to be like, well, is this guy, is this right or is it not right? You know, and that's very, very hard for them. I think. I think it's also a myth, a sub-myth, to say that it's easy for a woman just to jettison a dude, you know, and just move on to the next one. I don't think that's always so easy for them. I think it can be very, very hard. I think she could be in love with a guy, but she knows that guy is not ultimately the right guy for her. And that's a very tough situation to be in, okay? And then, of course, as women get older, they suffer a lot of prejudice because, you know, they're no longer seen as kind of as desirable in the way that they once were, and they suffer all of that, and, you know, and they go through childbirth and just all of these different things, and various sort of like health type issues and hormonal issues that men don't suffer. So to say that women have it completely easy is a myth. The next thing, what other myths are there about the dating world? We've kind of done black pill, haven't we? Okay, the myth is that a particular type of approaching, a particular type of way to meet women doesn't work. Okay, that's a myth. So people will often write on my videos, cold approach doesn't work, Troy. Cold approach doesn't work. Equally, you might say Tinder doesn't work, or I don't know, social circle doesn't work. And that's nonsense. The truth is, all of these things can work, okay? Cold approach, which is basically walking up to a woman that you didn't know before, having a conversation with her, getting a phone number, getting a date, whatever, can absolutely work. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Anybody who doubts that is a moron, because, put it this way, are you going to have more of a opportunity to get a date with that woman if you go and have a conversation with her, or if you don't? Well, obviously, if you have a conversation with her, there's more chance you're going to get a date, okay? Now, I'm not saying, and nobody's saying, that cold approach is going to work in every situation. Obviously not. There's a lot of rejections, like there is with anything worthwhile in life, but it's absolutely a way to make connections with people that you want to meet, of course, okay? Tinder is saturated. I'm not a Tinder fan. I'm not a dating app fan really at all. But can they work? Yeah, of course they can work. Of course they can work, okay? But, you know, have a look at your profile. What are your photographs like? Are your photographs a load of crap? Is your messaging simpy and cringe and crap? And then if you get a date, what's your date game like? How are you conducting those dates? Are you a bit of a flannel? Are you a bit of a wishy-washy kind of simpy dude? Or are you sitting there and just having a very boring, logical conversation about your career path for 2 hours, and then she walks out and you never see her again? You know? Like, is it the fault of the apps and the type of women you're meeting on those apps, or could it be it's something to do with the way that you are conducting yourself? Okay? So that's another myth. The third and final myth is to say that any sort of particular way of meeting women doesn't work, because they can all work. You know, they can all work. I mean, social circle, which is not something I really talk about a lot or really recommend myself. It's not an area of speciality for me. I mean, there's different types of social circle game. You can either do a Michael Sartain kind of thing, where you're friends with, you know, 500 models in Las Vegas, and through them you meet their friends and blah, blah, blah. There's that, which is, you know, works, but it's very time effective. You know, it's obviously takes some work to build it up, and you've got to have some social skill and poise to do it properly. Or there's social circle game in terms of just on a more simple level, meeting people through your group of friends. Obviously, both of those absolutely work. They absolutely work. In my view, the latter, which is, you know, you're in a group of friends and you kind of hopefully meet a woman through that, it feels a little bit more passive to me. It feels a little bit more like you're just sort of sitting around hoping to be chosen rather than being the chooser, which is not a frame that I particularly like, so it's not something that I really do. But, you know, does it work? Sure it works. I mean, I think probably you could argue it's one of the most successful ways that men and women get together, through social circle, right? So all of these things can work. And if they're not working for you, then it might, and I'm not saying the dating marketplace isn't tough, but it's something to do with the way you're conducting yourself, something to do with the way you're coming across, okay? So 3 myths: that dating is now impossible, that women have it easy, and that there are certain ways of approaching dating that just don't work. Okay, those are the 3 myths. Debunked. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit subscribe to the channel. If you want to jump on a call with me to discuss your dating situation, you can do that. There's a link below. Click the link, book a time in my calendar, or just email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. We've got a variety of different solutions for you. Okay? Speak again very soon. Bye-bye.